Hi, my name is Adelaide Blanchard, and today we'll be talking about the mitochondria and mitochondrial neuropathy. As most of us know, the mitochondria is this circular little guy who is called the powerhouse of the cell and produces ATP, which is the cell's energy, which helps aid in motor and sensory functions. So what happens if you can't produce this ATP or energy correctly? Well, when the cell can't do its function, neither can the body, and that's why we get something called mitochondrial diseases. And the one we'll be focusing on today is mitochondrial neuropathy. It can also be called MN or peripheral neuropathy. Mitochondrial neuropathy occurs when the distribution and transportation of mitochondrial energy is disrupted. Like I said before, these are vital for the health of sensory and motor neurons, and if they can't work, neither can your body. To understand mitochondrial neuropathy, we have to go back to the discovery in 1963, when Ingle and Cunningham introduced a strain that showed ragged red fibers, or RRFs, in muscle biopsies of patients with mitochondrial diseases. This essentially meant that they looked under a microscope and saw broken pieces of mitochondria in the cell. And then later, in 1988, Anita Harding discovered a large-scale deletion of mtDNA in muscle biopsies of patients with mitochondria myopathies, which is essentially something that happens to the muscles instead. Later, Doug Wallace discovered a point mutation in the mtDNA gene for subunit 4, which is associated with Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy. Now, back to the good stuff, the symptoms. How do you know if you have a mitochondrial disease? Well, it starts muscular. You might have flaccid muscles, muscle weakness, problems with coordination, loss of muscle, or muscle quivers. Or maybe it'll be in the whole body, where your nervous system dysfunctions, fatigue can appear, or an inability to exercise properly. You might find it in the eyes, with weak eye muscles or rapid involuntary movements. What's also common is developmental disability, heart block, seizures, severe unintentional weight loss, or slow growth. So this brings us to our next question. How might this be diagnosed? Well, these interesting cases aren't so simple. It takes tests, and more tests. A mitochondrial disease diagnosis is usually made after a series of tests and examinations, including but not limited to medical history, physical exams, neurological exams, laboratory tests, genetic testing, imaging, and even a muscle biopsy. Now, not to scare you, if any of this made you ask yourself, do you have a mitochondrial disease? Well, they're actually pretty rare, which is what makes it difficult for them to diagnose. This can be because of many factors. Symptoms can vary over a person's lifetime, starting from birth and continuing into old age, or stopping in the middle years. People with the same type of mitochondrial disease can have different symptoms, and many people with a genetic change don't have any symptoms at all. Symptoms for this disease are relatively mild. In fact, 20 million Americans have neuropathy, mitochondrial or otherwise. So, how might it be treated? Well, there's none. There's no cure, but physical therapy and medications can help manage symptoms, and research is at a standstill. Well, this concludes the end of our journey. Thank you for joining me today and learning more about mitochondrial neuropathy. I hope you learned a little something and can go tell your friends about it. Bye-bye!